Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Today we're going to cover a 1972 horror movie set aboard a train with Count Dooku and Grand Moff Tarkin, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. So let's review Horror Express.
Come in.
Thank you. It's all yours.
I won't be long.
This movie starts out in the mountains of Sichuan, China in 1906, and we're told it's based on a true story of an expedition. We see men going through caves to interesting music, and Sir Professor Alexander Saxton discovers a frozen humanoid, and he boxes it up and plans to bring it back on the train. Dr. Wells runs into Alexander at the train station and asks him the location of his separatist base, then blows up Geonosis. Alexander couldn't get a card or his cargo stored, but Wells speaks the language of bribery, and that works for him.
We call it bribery and corruption. Now, sir, excuse me.
Alexander was going to try a different method until some military guys showed up and were ordered to make themselves useful to him. And suddenly his ticket is found. Outside in the train station, a man is found dead with white eyes, and Father Pajardov says that he was trying to break into Alexander's crate and something inside there killed him. They load the crate and Alexander thinks that he heard a sound, so he opens it. Yep, it's still frozen. Wells heard the sound too and later pays a man to drill a hole in there to look in there and tell him what it is. And then we meet Countess Irina Petrovsky. Just lovely.
I'm honored, madame.
Oh yes, England. Queen Victoria, crumpets, Shakespeare.
I admire Poland, madame. I believe that there is a bond between our countries.
Then Wells and Alexander, who are comically sharing a room, run into a lovely woman who has no ticket and wants to crash with them. You know, when I'm breaking someone's personal effects, I generally don't whistle a tune because I don't want to get caught. He sees the skeleton and leaves, but we see this. Brute force I would have understood, but it's picking the lock, and this guy should have ran, and this is why you don't break into other people's cursed personal items. Father Pajardov spends time with the Count and Countess, and they're talking about what she should wear when the Englishman comes calling. To break the sanctity of marriage is no jest, and Pajardov tells them as much, but they like to play with him. The Inspector Mirov says that the baggage man is missing, and he demands that Alexander open the crate, and Alexander throws the key out the window. So they break in and find the baggage man, and Wells asks him,
Are you telling me that an ape that lived 2 million years ago got onto that crate, killed the baggage man and put him in there, then locked everything up neat and tidy and got away?
Yes, I am. It's alive. It must be.
The inspector arrests Alexander and then they search the train, but they don't want to alarm the passengers. The monster does not kill the children it is hiding next to, but it does take care of this dude. The other guards hear of this and they go searching and they find the man dead with white eyes. And Natasha's having drinks with Wells, and the engineer comes by because he recognizes her from the governor's palace, but she denies it. Wells asks him why his fish's eyes are white, and he says it's because they're boiled. Then the Inspector Mirov asks Wells to look at his soldier, and he brings Miss Jones to assist. Meanwhile, the Countess chose blue when she visits Alexander. They disagree on evolution, and he doesn't play it well. I think he had a legit shot with her.
I have heard of evolution. It's immoral.
It's a fact. And there's no morality in a fact.
Wells says the brain has been drained, and then they leave, and the monster shows up, and he looks at the bodies, and Natasha goes snooping around in all the wrong places, and she cracks a safe. But was it worth it? Poor, beautiful Natasha. Wells was flirting with Natasha earlier, and he's wondering where his booty call's gone to, so he goes looking and sees her dead and is attacked by the monster, but the inspector shoots at it, and then the monster starts to hurt the inspector with its eyes. He manages to kill the monster, and Alexander shows up and finds Natasha dead next to the monster. They should just throw it off the train. Alexander visits the inspector and mentions that Natasha was believed to be an international spy and that the creature absorbs the memories of its victims through the eyes. And that is how it knew how to pick the lock. Mironov visits the Count and Countess's room as they found his possessions in the beast's hands, and Pejardov doesn't believe it's dead. Then Dr. Wells, Alexander, and Miss Jones take out the creature's eye, and the fluid seems to hold on to its memories, and we see it looking at bodies. I think the inspectors compromised, and they literally say this could only be the Earth seen through space. Say what? Irina looks through it, and then Pejardov, and then they go through a tunnel, and Pejardov and the eye disappear, so they go looking for him. Miss Jones is looking in the baggage card, and that's where Pejardov is hiding, and then the inspector shows up with his red eyes in the dark and stare kills her. Pejardov impressively and cowardly does nothing, and then he offers the inspector the eye, but he burns it, and the doctors show up, and he shows them that Miss Jones is dead. Wells and Alexander discuss how the killing continues, while the inspector kills another man on the train, and Pejardov is just following him around. Alexander points out a famous horror trope, no one should be left alone, and the next scene he's by himself as he discovers the telegram guy is missing. At a train station, Captain Kazan seems to be preparing for the train.
He knows that a horse has 4 legs. He knows that a murderer has 2 arms. But still, the devil must be afraid of one honest Cossack.
The inspector talks to the engineer and asks him about leaving the Earth's gravity, and then takes him out. His next stop, Alexander, and they discuss what they know. An alien must have come to Earth and transferred host to host, and frankly, I just like this line.
Thought this might come in handy.
Oh, good idea.
2 of you together, that's fine. But what if one of you is the monster?
Monster? We're British, you know.
Why does Pejardov, who speaks against the evils of Satan, serve him? The inspector is about to steal the advanced formula for steel, presumably so he can build a spaceship and leave the Earth, when Kazan's men board the train and search and wonder what's going on there. Pejardov tries to get in the way and is beaten for it, and Kazan knows that he is protecting the inspector. And then Alexander dims the lights, and we see the red eyes, and the killing starts. Kazan manages to shoot his gun and throw his knife and injure the inspector, who runs off, and Pejardov follows and offers himself.
Coming to me, Satan.
The inspector looks into the monk's eyes, transferring himself into him before dying, and Pejardov kills the lights and starts staring and killing all Kazan's men really quickly. They would have stood a chance if they didn't wait to attack one by one. Kazan seems to last longer than his men, but he still falls. Alexander tells Wells to take care of the people as Pejardov enters the Count's room and takes his mind, and then he tells Irina that Pejardov loved her more than the promise of heaven, and Alexander shows up and gets some answers. He tries to appeal to the professor's thirst for knowledge and offer him great teachings, and then he reanimates all he killed. The Countess Irina warns Alexander just in time as they battle their way past the reanimated dead servants of Pejardov, or rather, the body it now inhabits. And then finally Alexander realizes that this contest cannot be decided by one's ability to use the Force, but by their skills with a saber. Irina and Alexander race to the back of the cart, where Wells waited for them before separating the cart. The next station gets a message to stop the express, which will kill everyone, and they change the track, which launches them off a cliff, and luckily the last cart stops just in time. We end with the shot of the Earth. This was pretty fucking cool. Like, I get that this might not be a great movie, but they conveyed a sci-fi premise through dialogue alone. The creature was a really good villain. I still don't agree with Bajardov switching teams though. And they did a good job building their characters. Yeah, there's a little bit of room to flesh out the creature and the characters a bit, but this is 1972. This is pretty fucking good for 1972. Polar Express was filmed in Madrid between 1971 and 72 and produced on a lower budget of $300,000 with the luxury of having 3 familiar genre actors in the lead roles. Actor Peter Cushing arrived in Madrid still distraught over the death of his wife and said that he could not do the film, but Christopher Lee stepped in and put his mind at ease, just talking about all the old work that they did together. They're old friends.
I came with others like myself. I was left behind. An accident. I survived in protozoans, fish, vertebrates. The history of your planet.
In the end, this was a hidden gem for me. I really enjoyed it. It felt like an old Star Trek episode with the beautiful women and everybody having their own agendas and everybody working together in the end. I mean, Christopher Lee was pretty awesome. The same with Peter Cushing. I enjoyed the characters. It was a lot of fun to watch. So if you haven't checked it out, I recommend you do. As always, thanks for watching.